Dr. Evelyn Cross was eminent for her careful accuracy, saving endless lives in her long-term profession. Nonetheless, one late-night crisis medical procedure would perpetually check her inheritance with a chilling stain. A young fellow was raced into the trauma center after a terrible auto crash, his wounds excessively serious for delay. Evelyn prepared her group rapidly and entered the clean, fluorescent-lit working room. Be that as it may, when the medical procedure started, odd events disturbed the strategy. The heart screen produced sporadic blares that didn't match the patient's vitals. Lights flashed irregularly, creating creepy shaded areas across the walls. Evelyn, terrified however proficient, attempted to center. Then came the murmurs, delicate, indistinguishable mumbles that appeared to radiate from no place, yet all over. "Who's talking?" Evelyn requested, her voice consistent however touched with anxiety. Her group traded befuddled looks. "Nobody, Dr. Cross," answered the anesthetist. The murmurs became stronger, taking on a chilling, repeating quality. Evelyn's surgical blade shuddered in her grasp as she turned her look to the patient's face. Briefly, his eyes vacillated open. However, he was quieted. His lips moved faintly, shaping words Evelyn couldn't hear, yet felt profoundly in her chest. An admonition. Unexpectedly, the lights went out, diving the room into dimness. The reinforcement generator kicked in minutes after the fact. However, when the lights returned, Evelyn froze. Her group was no more. The patient was no more. The working room seemed deserted, canvassed in layers of residue as though immaculate for a really long time. A shadow moved in the corner, hazier than the faint light ought to permit. Evelyn stepped back, her heartbeat hustling, as the shadow transformed into a figure. It wore a careful outfit. However, its face was covered in shadow, with shining eyes that drag into her spirit. "You've taken an adequate number of lives," it murmured in a voice that appeared to come from the profundities of the earth. Evelyn's knees clasped as recollections overwhelmed her psyche. Not of lives saved, but rather of the missteps she had covered, the patients lost because of her brief instant mistakes, the culpability she had subdued. The shadow jumped at her, and Evelyn shouted. At the point when she woke up, she was back in the working room. Her group waited around her, wide-looked at. "Dr. Cross, are you okay?" one of them inquired. The patient lay settled on the table. The medical procedure had been a triumph. In any case, Evelyn understood what she had seen and heard. The murmurs stayed to her, an evil update that a few missteps never blur, and a few shadows won't ever leave. From that evening forward, Evelyn kept away from the working room whenever the situation allows, yet the murmurs followed her. They developed stronger in calm passages and quiet evenings, as though the shadows were sitting tight for her to slip once more. Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling of disquiet after that evening. The murmurs that had tormented her in the working room waited in her fantasies, developing stronger every evening. Shadows moved on the edges of her vision, unnaturally alive, much under the most splendid medical clinic lights. Her once consistent hands shuddered at the possibility of holding a surgical blade once more. Not entirely settled to go up against the disrupting occasions, Evelyn started investigating the clinic's set of experiences. She found something that creeped her out. Many years prior, a specialist named Dr. Gregory Harlow had bafflingly disappeared during an activity. Witness accounts asserted he had been hearing voices and acting sporadically in the days paving the way to his vanishing. The straw that broke the camel's back was the pivotal medical procedure where he purportedly shouted about shadows prior to vanishing immediately and inexplicably. Evelyn understood the date of Harlow's vanishing matched the commemoration of her peculiar experience. Alarm grasped her as she dug further, revealing old clinic records that indicated much more obscure bits of insight. Patients who had kicked the bucket startlingly, staff who had stopped without notice, and murmurs among the excess faculty about the watcher of the OR. One evening, incapable to rest, Evelyn got back to the clinic alone. She went into the extremely working room where she had encountered the scary peculiarities. The air was thick with an unnatural chill. Still up in the air to find replies, she turned on her recorder, her voice unstable yet fearless. "Who are you?" she asked, the inquiry reverberating in the unfilled room. The murmurs started right away, confused at first yet becoming stronger, until one voice sliced through the rest. A profound, rough tone. "You can't get away from your culpability, Evelyn." The temperature in the room dove, hardware shook, and the careful lights flashed savagely. The shadowy figure returned, this time more characterized, its face looking like hers, however, turned in misery. "You're me," Evelyn heaved. The shadow gestured. "We are the lives you neglected to save." Evelyn sank to her knees as recollections of each and every lost patient consumed her. The shadow connected, its virus grasp fixing around her wrist. "You should set things straight," it murmured, "or then again, go along with us." At the point when Evelyn woke, she was lying on the surgical table, alone and doused in sweat. The room was immaculate, yet the murmur stayed scratched to her. From that second, she promised to uncover reality behind the shadowed revile of the working room. Yet again, as she dove further, Evelyn understood that each answer accompanied a cost, and the shadows were continuously watching, hanging tight for her to vacillate. Evelyn's determination to defy the murmurs just developed after that frightening night in the working room. She was presently sure that the element tormenting her wasn't simply an illusion of her culpability. It was an attached thing to the emergency clinic itself. Not set in stone to sort out the secret, Evelyn moved toward Margaret, the most established nurturer on staff, who had worked at the emergency clinic for north of 40 years. Margaret delayed from the start, yet in the long run trusted in a low shudder voice. "That room has forever been reviled. It began with Dr. Harlow, yet it didn't end with him. We've lost an excessive number of good individuals there. It benefits from fear and responsibility." Margaret gave Evelyn a blurred calfskin-bound diary. This had a place with Dr. Harlow. He was fixated on halting whatever is there. Perhaps you'll track down your responses here. Evelyn went through the following couple of evenings poring over the diary. Dr. Harlow's entrances uncovered an example. The substance benefited from unsettled feelings, lament, responsibility, dread. Every casualty had been tortured by private disappointments, and the shadow locked onto their weaknesses, developing further with each life it consumed. The last section cooled her. "The best way to end this is to completely defy it. It shows you the most exceedingly terrible of yourself. However, in the event that you surrender to fear, it will take you." I fizzled. "Whoever peruses this, please succeed." Not set in stone to break the cycle, Evelyn arranged to confront the element. Furnished with the diary and her newly discovered information, she ventured into the working room on the following commemoration of Dr. Harlow's vanishing. The murmurs began very quickly, becoming stronger as she remained in the focal point of the room. The temperature dove, and the shadow arose, its structure considerably hazier and more characterized than previously. "You've returned," it grated. "You convey such a lot of culpability, Evelyn. Such a lot of disappointment. You won't ever get away from it." Evelyn held her ground. "I'm not running any longer. Show me what you maintain that I should see." The shadow encompassed her, diving her into a dream. She saw each understanding she had at any point lost, their countenances contorted in anguish, their voices blaming her. Be that as it may, this time, rather than surrendering to fear, Evelyn dealt with them directly. "I put forth a valiant effort," she said, distroys streaming her face. "I'm human. I committed errors, yet I won't allow them to characterize me. I pardon myself." The shadow withdrew, contracting as Evelyn's certainty developed. The working room started to light up, the abusive dimness lifting. The shadow gave one last, chilling murmur. "This isn't the end." At the point when Evelyn arose, she found the room unfilled, the air lighter than it had been in many years. Margaret, who had been holding up outside, checked her in amazement. "Ow. It's finished," Evelyn said. In any case, where it counts, she realized the shadow wasn't long gone. It had withdrawn, trusting that another weak soul will go after. From that day, Evelyn committed her life to guaranteeing the clinic was a position of recuperating, not torture. In any case, each time she elapsed the working room, she couldn't resist the opportunity to feel the slightest chill, as though the shadow was still watching and pausing. As Evelyn attempted to get back to her daily schedule, the peculiar occasions encompassing the working room started to echo through the clinic. Partners murmured regarding her boldness, however, Evelyn felt no victory. Her fantasies were tormented by pictures of the shadow, its splitting words tormenting her contemplations. This isn't the end. One night, as Evelyn arranged for a short-term shift, she saw something uncommon in the medical clinic's documents. A patient record from many years prior had been mysteriously moved to her work area. It bore the name Samuel Harlow. The record uncovered that Dr. Harlow, the one who had reported the shadow's impact, had been the patient of a mental assessment before his vanishing. Notes portrayed his heightening fixation on the substance and obscure representations that looked like the shadow's structure. As Evelyn dug further, the power gleamed, and the emergency clinic's murmur of life appeared to blur into a creepy quietness. Her pager hummed desperately. She was required back in the working room. A crisis patient was being prepared. At the point when she showed up, the room was peculiarly cold, and the shadows felt alive, extending unnaturally along the walls. The patient, a man in his 50s, bore profound scratches on his arms and a distant search in his eyes. He murmured faintly, "It won't let me go." Evelyn's breath got as she perceived the man's face from Harlow's representations. He was a more established rendition of the shadow's structure. Her heart dashed as the room obscured once more, the shadow's voice blasting, "You assumed you crushed me? I'm not a revile, but rather reality you can't confront. You can't save him, or yourself." Evelyn realized this was the shadow's ploy, benefiting from her apprehension and uncertainty. Be that as it may, she wouldn't vacillate. She went to the diary, presenting the images and words that Dr. Harlow had recorded for banishing the element. The shadow yelled, its structure winding fiercely, yet this time, Evelyn detected its power disappearing. The patient wheezed, his eyes clearing as though waking from a bad dream. As the room settled, Evelyn helped the man off the table, yet he gazed at her with a troubling advance notice. It generally sees as one more way back. However, the shadow appeared to be vanquished until further notice. Evelyn comprehended the battle was nowhere near finished. The element was attached to the medical clinic, woven into its actual texture, trusting that the following soul will break under its weight. Evelyn's central goal was clear. She needed to reveal the shadow's actual beginning before it asserted another casualty. The diary indicated a secret chamber underneath the medical clinic, where the principal experience with the shadow could have happened. Be that as it may, the expense of uncovering reality could be more than she was able to pay. As Evelyn arranged for what lay ahead, the medical clinic got back to life, clamoring with movement. However, in the calm corners, where the light scarcely reached, The weak murmur of the shadow waited, an update that the obscurity was nowhere near crushed. Evelyn's days at the emergency clinic became hazier as she arranged to reveal the secret alluded to in the diary. Late around evening time, while most staff refreshed and the medical clinic was quiet, she accumulated supplies, an electric lamp, gloves, and the not entirely set in stone to track down the chamber underneath the clinic. The plans in the chronicles uncovered a failed-to-remember storm cellar that originated before the emergency clinic's cutting-edge development. Evelyn found a limited flight of stairs hid behind an unused stockpiling storeroom. Residue and spider webs covered the space, and the air became heavier as she slid. The chamber was little and roundabout, its walls decorated with enigmatic markings indistinguishable from those in Harlow's diary. At the middle lay a peculiar, special raised area, its surface broken as though something had broken free from the inside. The nearer Evelyn drew closer, the colder the air became. Out of nowhere, she heard a weak voice, her own voice, calling out to her. Evelyn twirled around, yet the flight of stairs was vacant. The shadows around the room started to swell, and the air conveyed murmurs that appeared to exude from each bearing. From the focal point of the raised area, the shadow changed, its shape more characterized, its voice seriously threatening. "You shouldn't have come here," it murmured. "This is where everything started, and where it will end." Evelyn held up the diary, her hands shaking yet her determination firm. She started presenting the expulsion custom, her voice reverberating through the chamber. The shadow contorted and shouted, its structure moving into bizarre shapes. However, at that point, something surprising occurred. As the shadow debilitated, a subsequent substance arose, a more modest, lighter structure. It was the soul of Dr. Harlow. His voice was weak, however loaded up with appreciation. "You've uncovered reality," Harlow murmured. "The shadow benefits from agony, sorrow, and dread, feelings that flourish here. The emergency clinic should relinquish its past, assuming it is to be free." With Harlow's direction, Evelyn finished the custom, fixing the shadow inside the special stepped area. A blinding light immersed the chamber, and when it blurred, the markings on the walls vanished, and the air felt lighter. Evelyn climbed the flight of stairs, her body depleted yet her soul faithful. The medical clinic felt unique, more quiet, more splendid. The staff and patients appeared settled, as though the severe load of the shadow had lifted. However, as Evelyn shut the capacity storage room entryway, she saw her shadow glint unnaturally against the wall. The shadow was no more. Be that as it may, not totally. Its murmurs waited faintly, an update that murkiness never vanishes, it just pauses. Evelyn realized her fight was over for the present, yet the clinic's mysteries would constantly have an approach to re-emerging.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button for more videos. Until next time.